What is up, y'all? Odeed here once again, aka Big Jake, and today I'm doing something a little different on my channel. I'm not going to be doing any kind of recipe type cook today. I'm basically going to give you guys advice on cooking barbecue. So basically what I mean by that is I have a lot of people who ask me, questions like, how long did you cook this barbecue? What temp did you cook it at? How do you know when it's done? Things like that. So what I'm going to do today is give you my 3T method. And what those 3 T's are is time, temp, and tenderness. And if you go by those 3 things, you will cook great barbecue every single time. All right, I'm going to list these in order of importance, or in the order in which I feel that I go by. Number 1 would be time. Now basically, pretty much no matter what situation you're in, if you're cooking barbecue, you do need to roughly go by some sort of timetable. Whether you're cooking for a restaurant, whether you're cooking for guests, or even if you're cooking at a competition, you need to have your barbecue done roughly around a certain time. Now first off, let me say it's always better to have your barbecue done early, and then you can wrap it in a beach towel and put it in an ice chest, or put it in a Cambro, or like some restaurants do, you can put it in a warming box. So always get your barbecue done earlier rather than later. But with that being said, you sort of plan things out. You say, all right, I have a 10-pound pork butt. I'm gonna cook it at temp X, whatever that may be. I know that roughly takes, that could be anywhere from 6 hours to 12 hours depending on your temp. So that means I'm gonna, get it done approximately at this time. So yeah, time is number 1, and it's a very loose guide. And like I said, that is mostly so that you make sure you get your barbecue done on time. But some people also use it as far as, when they wrap and things like that. So that's another thing. I know some people say, well, I don't go by time, but again, it's very loose, and it's a very rough guide. All right, next is temp. And when we're talking about temp, we're talking about the temperature of the cooker, and then we're talking about the temp of the meat, or the internal temperature. So in this day and age, you have people who cook at a temperature as low as 180, and then I've seen people cook briskets at 450 degrees. So I'm not going to get into the argument of what the ideal temp is to cook your meat, because that's kind of personal preference, and I've cooked things at all kind of different temps, and some things work better than others to me. That's personal opinion, and that's for a different video. But with that being said, get a temp on your barbecue dialed in that you like for the meat that you're cooking. For me personally, I use different temps for different meats, and even on different cookers I use different temps too. Again, but that's kind of for a different video. This is more, once you know your time, figure out your temp, equate those two together, and then you can kind of roughly know when your barbecue gets to the point where you need to check it to see if you can wrap it, and then when you can start checking it for the 3rd T, which I'll go into in a minute, which is tenderness. So basically what you can say is, after your time is set and then you get your temp, you say, okay, for example, I got a brisket, I'm cooking it at 250 degrees, and I know right around the 5 to 6 hour mark, my bark will probably be set, and my temp will probably be somewhere around 150 to 165 degrees. Then you can lift the lid and start looking, because really if you're lifting the lid every 30 minutes, for me personally, if you're looking, you're not cooking. So use that time as a guide, use that internal temp as a guide, and then you can put those two together and then figure out when you want to lift the lid on your barbecue to see if your brisket or your pork butt or your ribs or whatever it is you're cooking looks the way that you want it to look, and then you can go to the wrap stage. Or if you're not wrapping at all, you can push it all the way through to, say, if you have a brisket, to 195 degrees to 200 degrees. And then you could say, you know what, let me start checking it for the 3rd T, which is tenderness. All right, the last T is the most important, and as I mentioned, I was gonna list these in order of importance, and that's tenderness. And that's really the way that you check to see if your barbecue is done or not. So you went by time as a rough guide, and you went by temp as a rough guide. You're at the point now where you've already wrapped your brisket or your pork butt or your ribs, or maybe you don't wrap, maybe you just ride it all the way through. And for example, you have a pork butt, you're cooking at 200 and let's say 50 degrees again, 10-pound pork butt. You're in about 10 hours, 11 hours, and your internal temp is reading 195, let's say, and you go, you know what? Now it's time to check to see if it's done. Let's check the tenderness. So what you can do with a pork butt or ribs or any of those other things is you can actually take your probe and sort of poke it through the different parts of the meat to see if it's done, and if it goes through like room temperature butter, then yeah, your product is done. You can also, if your product is wrapped in butcher paper or foil, you can take either some gloves or even just like a towel, like a dish towel, and sort of pick it up and wiggle it around and see if it sort of gives, if that makes any sense. And if it does, then it's done. So yeah, tenderness is your ultimate guide when you're looking to see if your barbecue is done. Basically, for example, you know, if you're at the 12-hour mark on a 12-pound brisket and you know it's reading 200 degrees internal, but you pick it up and right in the middle of that point it's still a little stiff, it's not done yet. So yeah, the tenderness is going to be the thing that's going to be your key. So use the time and use the temp to get you to the point where you start checking for the tenderness, and the tenderness is the key. It's the secret to making that ultimate barbecue. So anyways, just wanted to make a quick video and kind of break that down for you guys. So just remember that, the 3 T's, time, temp, tenderness, use those as a guide and use those in that order, and your barbecue will come out good every single time. Peace.